Welcome to Social Studies Samurai. In this video, we'll talk about how to take notes using the Cornell Method and why this is useful. Let's get started. Okay everyone, this is how to take research notes using the Cornell Method. And I have to admit, I've made a few of my own adjustments. So in the video, we'll talk about what the Cornell Method is, why it's useful, the MYP individuals and societies criteria and approaches to learning, ATLs, that are attached to what we're doing today, and of course, how to use the Cornell Method or how to do it. So simply put, the Cornell Method is a structured note-taking system that's designed to help you organize and review information and to do that effectively. Now this can be done for note-taking for some kind of investigation. It can be done for lecture note-taking during a class. It can be done for meetings. There are other ways that you could use this. In our case, we're taking research or investigation notes. Now the Cornell Method, just out of your information, it was designed by Walter Pock, who was a professor at Cornell University, and apparently he was their Study Skills Center director, that kind of thing. Check it out for yourself. So we know that the Cornell Method is a system, right? It helps you structure and organize your notes. So organization is important. So for example, it helps you take a big topic and then identify the smaller topics or themes or other details within that topic. It also helps you be a deeper thinker or think more deeply as you're doing research, as you identify concepts, write down any new questions you have or things you want to investigate further, maybe highlight key ideas or terms, vocabulary, terminology, right? Maybe you're going to highlight original ideas and original thinking that you have. And of course, there's a part where you summarize, and this allows you to identify the big ideas across all of your sources. So if you're using the Cornell Method with 4 different sources, you've got 4 different sets of notes. Well, all those details, the way you use them will help you, put everything together to consolidate the evidence that you found before you start drafting a final product. It's a good system. So the relevant MYP individuals and societies criteria for year 5 anyway is criterion B, investigating, and this is the highest mark band. Basically, uses research methods to collect and record appropriate, varied, and relevant information. So the Cornell Method is basically a research method. And the relevant approaches to learning, ATLs attached to this. We're looking at the skill category of research and specifically information literacy, and even more specifically, finding, interpreting, judging, and creating information. And looking at the 3 bullets, you collect, record, and verify data, you access information to be informed and inform others, and you make connections between various sources of information, kind of like what I mentioned a moment ago. So what does this Cornell Method, look like? What's the structure? How is it organized? Basically, you have a left side column for questions, ideas, maybe noting down, big ideas and concepts. This would be where you write down keywords or terminology, new ideas that you have, new questions, original thinking. And this helps you engage actively with whatever source you're using, whether it's a book or a video, that kind of thing. It allows you to think a little more deeply. Now, the right side box, this is, the notes column, right? This should be actually a little bit bigger than the other one. Maybe 70% of your page. This is where you take detailed notes and you're doing it in a structured format, which means you're writing headings, subheadings, you're using bullet points as best as you can, you're paraphrasing. You might write diagrams, little maps, along with your doodles. It basically gives you the main ideas, right? It gives you the big ideas, your supporting details, and the important concepts. Now there's also a place at the bottom to summarize, and when you summarize, it allows you to focus on the key points in your own words, which means you're paraphrasing, but it also reinforces your overall understanding of the topic, or at least the topic from the perspective of that source. And then when you take all your different notes, then you can quickly reference the work that you've done. So let's say this is kind of what your paper looks like, or a doc or a Google Doc or something like that. On the left here, that's the left side column that I'm talking about for big ideas, keywords, concepts, new questions, that kind of thing. Now, if you look the bigger right side column here, that's where you're going to do your detailed note-taking, but doing it in an organized manner. And then at the bottom, we've got the summary. So you notice these are all actually sized in a specific way. That's just to focus on, hey, I don't really write too much here, or I write a lot here. This is the structure of the Cornell method, essentially. Now, what I have done with my students, I've actually added a couple of boxes at the top. You see where I want my students to write the research topic, and then if they can, the specific focus within the topic, because a lot of sources might be focused on one aspect of a topic you're investigating. So you should note that. And then you notice the source, right? That's where you can put the MLA citation, or in the very least, you should write the name of the source, the kind of source it is, and the author. And if you're doing this digitally, put a hyperlink in there so that you can get quick access to it, and so that your teacher can too. So let's have a look at how the Cornell method could be used, and this is a Google Doc version. Now note I've got my additions at the top here. I've got two boxes, one on the left that says the research topic, and I've asked for a specific focus. So I've written down in my own words very quickly that, yeah, this source is about child labor and social reform, and the focus is a general overview, but especially focuses on the extent of child labor. So I've kind of explained that this source looks more at the extent of child labor. I've also written my research question just to give me a bit of a reminder of what I'm looking for in this source. Now on the right side, I've just gone ahead and put my MLA citation in there because it gives me the name of the source, the author. It doesn't quite say the kind of source. I do get that because there's a hyperlink, so I know it must be online. And I've just put a hyperlink in there so that I and/or my teacher can quickly access it. Now let's look at the main part, the real Cornell method here. So in the right side box, note that I've got bolded text and I have underlined text to highlight certain things. So in terms of organization, note here, I've got, again, the bolded text, definition of child labor, and then child labor before industrialization. I've got, and pre-industrial jobs included. I've got those bolded because they're headings and subheadings. They're going to catch my eye really quickly when I go to put all my notes together. I've chosen to use some underlines here just so, again, to highlight some of the smaller details that I got from the source. And if you look through, you can see that I've been consistent as I've taken these notes. Now at the bottom, I've got my summary of the main ideas. Now this source isn't too short and it's not too long. I do think in this case, probably 3 or 4 sentences is enough to bring it all together. And this summary actually reminds me that the source I use does focus on the extent of child labor in the UK. So now let's look at this left side column here. This is the one I find students have most difficulty with. Basically, you're filling in this column as you're taking your notes. The right and left side columns here, they have completely different purposes. So let's say in my note taking, there's some words that I'm not really sure about and I want to check out, and if I can, like write down what they mean in context right here so that I don't forget later on, like family economy, pre-industrial, pauper. Maybe I didn't know what those mean and I have to write them down in context so that when I go to look at all my notes, I actually know what these mean. Now, I've noticed as I've taken my notes that the concepts of cause and consequence come up a lot. Children being exploited, people demanding reforms, of the government. I also noticed continuities there because towards the end of the source, I found that, they had these new laws to deal with child labor, but there were still tens of thousands of children a few decades later working where they shouldn't have been working. So that's continuity. Now, as far as new ideas, I only had one as I was going through this, but I noticed that there's no comment on the Enlightenment. So I thought, the Enlightenment, I've studied that. I've used my background knowledge here. Maybe I should find out how the Enlightenment played into this. And then I have a whole pile of questions. And if I scroll down, you can see I have probably about 4 or 5 questions. Did children benefit from working? Did the family benefit? That kind of thing. What industries use children the most? Did some use children to work more than others? These are questions that I came up with as I was doing my research because the answers, if they're not in the source, but I feel like I need to find out. And then I've also made like a little to-do list, right? Find sources to corroborate the statistics in this source. The extent of child labor. I've got statistics in the notes that I've taken, so I do need to compare those to other sources to see that they're accurate. Find a little bit more about what an apprenticeship is. That's something I may or may not use in my final product, but I think I need to know. Finding out statistics about children in education, because education's talked about, but I don't really have much detail on it. I'm looking for social change, and education is social change, right? And try to find out the significance of activism as opposed to labor unrest, right? Was it more activists that had an impact, or was it people protesting? These are questions I came up with that I want to check out. So that's how to take research notes using the Cornell Method. It helps you organize and structure your investigation, as well as think more deeply about the questions that pop up into your head, and new thinking and that kind of thing. It's a good method, so good luck. I encourage you to use it. Hope you liked the video. There's more on Instagram, Facebook, X, and on the web. Hope to see you again.